All right, this last video of the lesson is really just a recap of our rigid motions that we learned in this unit. So not much to write down, just kind of follow along and remind ourselves, oh yeah, I remember learning about that. So reflections was our first lesson. We learned that in lesson 3.1. Reflection, the notation has a capital R and the subscript is the line of reflection. So you can see there's a line of reflection. So if we're reflecting across line R, triangle ABC, our result is triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. So just a couple of reminders about reflections is each point in the pre-image and its corresponding point in the image, if you connect those lines, it is perpendicular to your line of symmetry, and they are the same distance away from that line of symmetry. All right, translations. We learned about translations in our 3.2 lesson. This is where a figure can move. It has horizontal movement and vertical movement. So the pre-image is A. We would look horizontally first. We can see it went 1, 2 to the left, and then it went 1, 2, 1, 2, wait. 1, 2 to the left, 1, 2, 3 down. So our notation for that, capital T stands for translation. And then it almost looks like an ordered pair with pointed parentheses. The first number you see is your horizontal translation. So because it's a negative, that tells us take your pre-image and go 2 units to the left. The second number is your vertical translation. So because that's a -3, we would go 3 units down. If those numbers were positive, you would translate to the right and up for positive values. All right, we learned about rotations in lesson 3.3. Rotations have a center of rotation, in this case is point P. There's an angle of rotation, so this x degrees. So the way we think about that, or at least drawing this out, if you just connect an imaginary line from your center of rotation to a vertex of your figure, that's the line that you're going to rotate off of. So we would rotate x degrees. We would draw a line that same length. You can see they're congruent. And that's where the new location of A prime is going to go. So each of these rotated that same amount to land at A prime, B prime, C prime. The notation for that is a lowercase r. So our lowercase r is a rotation and uppercase r is a reflection. What it's telling us down here, we're going to rotate. The first thing will be the degree measure, so x degrees, and the second thing in the parentheses is your center of rotation. So they're telling us to rotate x degrees about point P. So everything's going to be rotated around this center right there. All right, in lesson 3.4, we learned about glide rotation. Glide rotation is a composition of 2 rigid motions of a translation and a reflection. You could do, the order of these don't matter, but it's one of each. Just a reminder about compositions. You can see the translation is written first and the reflection is written second. But if you were to perform this composition, just friendly reminder, you would actually do the reflection first and the translation second. So when you do the actual transformations yourself, you have to start with the second one and then do the first one. What a glide reflection is you have a reflection across some line of symmetry, and then the translation is only going to be in one direction. It's going to go parallel to the line. So in this case, if we reflect across that horizontal line, I'm only going to move it sideways. In this case, we moved it to the right. We could have moved it to the left. I will not move it up or down because the translation has to remain parallel to that line of reflection. And there's your little recap of the rigid motions we have learned in Unit 3.